Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Boerne Brew here on the Boerne Radio, 103.9 FM and 1500 AM. And you can also listen on the Boerne Star and the Boerne Radio websites. I'm the host of today's show. My name is Kerry Barboza, and I'm the sports editor of the Boerne Star. And today we're going to talk with Boerne champion swim coach and water polo coach Scott Slay. Water polo teams just wrapped up successful seasons and both made the state tournament where they earned bronze medals. And the Charger swimmers are well into their season as well. And so we're going to talk about all that, but first of all, Coach Slay, thank you for being a part of the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's go back to the beginning of the year. Water polo season starts in August. You play, you have a couple of scrimmages, and then you're going early August, right? And if you make it to the very end, you play through October, state tournament, which Boerne boys have been there the last 3 years, the state tournament. But then swim starts the following weekend, right? So you don't really get much of a break, do you, in between?
It's blow and go for sure. We started August 1st, and I mean, truthfully, this stuff never really ends. So we started that first week of August, and then scrimmages pretty easy. To be perfectly honest, I missed the first scrimmages, went to go drop my daughter off at college. Then after that, it was week after week after week after week. Tournament season's crazy at the beginning, and then, yes, state tournament, and then you were hitting the ground that Monday with swim practice, and then we are into our first swim meet that Friday.
Yeah, so less than a week, right, between the state tournament and some of the meets. And there's some overlap, isn't there, because they're kind of going before they really have their first meet?
Yeah, we're tricky with our training because what we've done this year, just an adjustment from you just learn as you go here. This is new territory for me here at Boerne because I haven't really done both at the same time, and we're on a block schedule. So we have to be prepared, and what we do is we basically, when we have morning practice, we're like kind of cross-training swimming and water polo. The water polo players are conditioning, swimmers, or everybody's conditioning, basically.
Speaking of swimming, don't you have a big meet this weekend, a TISCA meet coming up?
Yes, sir. We're in the South Zone TISCA meet. It's basically the best teams in Austin and San Antonio competing head-to-head with their best swimmers. Time standards are involved, and we look pretty good.
TISCA, what does TISCA stand for? I know it's an acronym for something.
It's an organization I've been with for a long time. It's the Texas Interscholastic Swim Coaches Association, which also houses water polo, diving as well.
Where is the meet this coming weekend?
The Josh Davis Natatorium, Northeast ISD.
San Antonio. And you mentioned dive. Every year, champion has divers. Most years get to state. I know Colin Brewer dove for 4 years, made state. Jenny Brewer's son, she's been on the show. But, that's something that's kind of overlooked because there's no real dive facility here in Boerne. So don't those kids have to go into San Antonio to dive early in the morning?
Yeah, they dive over at Northside. Northside ISD has a good club diving program. And, I mean, right now we don't even have diving boards where we're at, really. So it's what suits them best.
So you have the TISCA meet. Is that the last one before Christmas break?
This is the last meet before Christmas break. We've been to Corpus for a swim meet, for a 2-day TISCA meet as well. So this is our second TISCA meet. And we've done basically all invites so far.
Okay. And then, like you said, you get a break for Christmas. Do you have workouts, or do they kind of do it on their own?
A lot of our kids do go to club practice over the break, but we have a UIL mandated holiday break, which is
moratorium.
Five consecutive days. And the way the holidays really fall kind of weird this year. So
yeah, middle of the week.
Yeah, so champion or Boerne ISD basically takes 3 weeks off at Christmas, so I'm just giving them the first week off, and we're going to go the next 2 weeks really hard.
And then once the holidays are done, January starts, school year resumes in January, and New Year starts. You basically, it's downhill from there, and you have district, regionals, and then state, and you're done in February.
We are done in February, but it's a grind. Last year was even, honestly, more of a grind because myself and my assistant coach, Coach Gillette, we did both swim teams. So it was like weeks and weeks and weeks of district, region, state, all back-to-back weekends. But this year it's just champion, so get a little bit of a break.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were the head coach of both Boerne High and Boerne Champion, but when Boerne High added water polo, they had to have a separate coach because you're competing against each other. So, yeah, and I know that Brandon Eves, he's a Greyhound graduate, right? And so I know he kind of started the water polo program this year. And did you give him much advice? Did he ask you for a lot of advice over the months early on?
He did early on, and honestly, we've just been so busy. We haven't really had an opportunity to cross paths like we want to. I'm anticipating. I'm old. He's young. So
he's got energy.
I want to kind of, we want to build both programs up. As much as anything, I want the Greyhounds competing just like Champion is competing at water polo and swimming. And I mean, it's good for the community to have both teams competing in water polo at a high level. And that's he and I have the same goal. Like, it's both
Right.
teams. I want to have to knock them out at regional finals every year.
Right. And I know played them in district, and you moved one of the matches here to Boerne. I thought that was pretty neat to have the community there at the city pool. And I know the pool's not regulation size because it's, it's not deep enough at certain points, but that was still a pretty fun match, I thought.
It was great, honestly. A lot of people ask me, how are we going to do this? Look at our pool. It doesn't, I was like, guys, I played collegiate water polo in a 6-lane shallow deep pool. It's just, you make it work.
That is Scott Slay, Boerne champion swim and water polo coach, joining us here on the Boerne Brew. So how many swimmers are in the program total and divers, and what percentage of those play water polo?
Well, our high school, I'm just going to call it an aquatics program.
Okay.
So we're looking at, you have about 68 kids, boys and girls, in the champion aquatics program.
Is it split like 50-50 boys, girls?
I honestly think we have more boys than girls. Right now, you were looking at about 25 boys that participated in water polo this past fall, and we had about 20 girls. So when you start adding that up, you're looking at about 45 of the 68.
So 2/3, something like that.
More than half, I know that.
Yeah. So do all swimmers make good water polo players?
No.
What makes a good water polo? Well, thank you for being honest. What makes a good water polo player?
Honestly, what I'm looking for, and as a water polo coach, my dream scenario is kids that have played multiple sports that maybe probably do some club swimming, or if they do summer league swimming. But I want kids that have played basketball, soccer, team sports, baseball players, softball players that can throw a ball. Versatile kids is what I'm looking for.
Well, I would describe water polo as a mix of swimming, of course, but it kind of, to me, resembles basketball and soccer, just because basketball with the fast breaks and you're throwing the ball the length of the pool, kind of like a fast break. Soccer with positioning, you have a goalie, corner kicks, and in this case, corner throws. How would you describe it as a combination of what sports?
I honestly think what I think of when I'm coaching it is basketball with some soccer rules involved. That's kind of how I think of it.
I know in a match, because I've been to matches now, and I never really covered water polo before they started it, but a lot of whistles from the officials, and they all mean something, right? I don't even know what they mean, but I just know when he blows the whistle, they all change direction, or it's just kind of weird how it all works.
One whistle's like an ordinary foul, play on. 2 whistles is a change of possession. A lot of whistles, somebody's in trouble.
Okay. Yeah, and they do get, I don't know, kind of like a red card, kind of, right? You have to leave.
Usually we try not to get to that point, but they can get excluded from the game for, punching, hitting, stuff like that.
Right, and it's kind of a yellow card like in soccer, I guess. One thing I found fascinating the very first time I went to a water polo match is that all the players walk up to the officials and they show him their fingernails.
Right.
Because you don't want them scratching under the water.
Yeah, it is a thing, and I feel like champion kids, like we forget to cut our nails before pretty much every single game. It's like, guys, you're going to a water polo game, cut your nails.
Yeah.
So, scratching happens a lot. Even if they don't have nails, they can get checked before the game, and people still come up with scratches.
Yeah, I've seen that. You can see that where they're grabbing underwater. And there's, a lot of the action's, 80% underwater, I guess?
People ask me, it's the hardest sport in the world. Like, in my personal opinion, it's the hardest team sport. First thing you have to be able to do is not die from drowning. So it's a difficult sport.
So are water polo players, are they in better shape than someone who just swims?
I think it's a different shape. Over the years, I mean, myself included as a swimmer / water polo player growing up, I would go from swim season into like spring water polo, like club when I was a kid, and you swim with your head down and then you suddenly are swimming with your head up, and it's different. It is definitely different. It is challenging, but so is swimming. It's all difficult.
So what's your background? Because you mentioned you played in college. Did you grow up playing and then play in high school and college? Because it hasn't been a big thing. It's gotten better and bigger now in Texas. But I guess, when you grew up, how big was it at the time?
It wasn't big, but I just happened to grow up in I grew up in what you would call the motherland of Texas water polo, which would be the Gulf Coast area, which I grew up in Baytown, Texas. Baytown Sterling is honestly probably the best. Some people might argue with me, but they are the best program ever in the state of Texas. Okay. So I played there growing up. They had a club team when I was a little kid, and I was playing, at 14 years old, which is kind of rare back in the time. that was my first job. I was an assistant coach at Baytown Sterling after college, and I was there till 2010 as their head coach, and then moved on to Tomball High School.
Houston area.
Yes, sir. So at Baytown Sterling, honestly, going back in 2007, Baytown Sterling Rangers, boys and girls, were the best water polo teams ever assembled in this state.
How many colleges in Texas and around the country offer water polo?
Not enough. I think it's a simple thing that colleges could add. College that is pretty near and dear to me right now, Vanderbilt has a bowling team. So yeah. I don't understand why colleges can't have water polo teams. It's actually a pretty inexpensive sport to start up, but that's one of our big things is we want to push NCAA growth. But, the NCAA is a hot mess right now. So
that NIL's really weird now. It's gotten weird, the NIL.
It impacts my own household.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, your daughter's a college athlete. So.
But it's talked about a lot in our house. And, yeah, it impacts, like, collegiate water polo went from a certain amount of roster spots to now they're down to 25. So it makes things interesting, and now it's harder and harder. Like, I work on recruiting right now for kids, and it's difficult to get them placed.
How many colleges in Texas have water polo?
Only one wow, collegiate
just
team.
One.
And we're working on that. There's teams.
And where is that?
Austin College in Sherman.
Okay.
So actually, I have a local club team, and their former assistant coach is one of our head coaches for our club team now. Okay. And Bernie.
That's right. He made the move down here. That is Scott Sklay, Boerne champion swim coach, water polo coach, dive coach, joining us here on the Boerne Brew. Let's talk about the state water polo tournament. Both teams made it. I was there at Josh Davis Auditorium. I've met Josh Davis. He's a pretty nice guy.
He is a nice guy.
Yeah, he's real nice. Both lost in the state semis. Sorry to bring up some bad memories, but the guys' team had been there. This was their third year to make it to state. They won silver, and then this year they won bronze. So for the guys, it almost felt like they were disappointed because they had earned silver those past 2 years, and obviously the goal was to win it all. You and I talked about it after the tournament. There was a sense of disappointment, but has time put it in perspective for those guys?
The way UIL sports, the tournament is set up, like, you get punished for a hard schedule almost, and we lost 3 games this year in tournament play by a combined score of 4 goals.
Right.
And so because of that, we got seeded, and I feel like we opened with a good team right off the bat, and Marcus was a very talented team. But hate to blame officiating, but the officiating in that game was garbage.
Okay. Well, but has it kind of settled? Hey, we were the third best team in the state. Has that kind of?
I don't know if these boys are going. It just triggers them, honestly. They just want more. They want to win it. I mean, it stinks for the seniors. We honestly had a Boerne Aquatics legend who was a senior that is moving on and didn't get a chance to win that state championship, and I think that eats at him. But Bexon is moving on to big things, and everybody's going to find out in a few days what those big things are. But I think these boys that are coming up next year are just as hungry, and I can almost tell you I expect to see us back there again.
Yeah, Bexon, one of the best water polo players in the state, and I was talking to his mom, Kate Harrison, and she was telling me that there's just not a lot of, we were talking about it just a second ago, there's just not a lot of water polo opportunities, and he was trying to find something. It sounded like maybe swimming would be a potential for him, but he'd rather do water polo, it sounds like, but there's just not as many opportunities.
I think he's really got the swim bug right now. He is, because he was so focused on water polo the last few years, he is really dropping a tremendous amount of time. And, he is actually just committed to a school, but I'm going to let him announce that for swim.
We'll look for it.
And it's a big-time school. It's a big-time program, and what he is doing right now in swimming is actually incredible. He's doing really well with it.
Yeah, and his brother Will also was on the swim team and on the water polo team. Now, for the girls' team, as far as not being disappointed, it was just the opposite. They got bronze, and they were ecstatic because they had never won a playoff game, and they went from never winning a playoff game to making it to the state tournament.
It was truly just happy to be there.
Yeah. And, we talked about it, and they really overachieved because, like I said, they had never won a playoff game. And how did you get them from not winning a playoff game to winning several and being competitive at, enough to get it to state?
Well, I don't want to give away all the
All the secrets.
But no, like they just started figuring things out. Like it was just, they really started to understand things I wanted. We were anchored by a great goalie. I will argue that she's the best goalie in the state of Texas right now. And she kept us in games. Like we put some semblance of defense in front of her, could muster up a few goals against teams. And then the regional tournament was just, everybody probably thinks like, oh my God, this guy's going to have a heart attack. But it was actually like a lot of fun. It was very stressful, but it was good fun, good stressful fun.
Well, I know the Texas High School Coaches Association, you just released their super elite teams, and Will Harrison made it, and Caden made it. I was surprised Bexon wasn't on there.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. He's made it the last 2 years. You'd think they would have given him one more year, but it's all right. He's gotten a lot of accolades.
Yeah. And like you said, he's a state medalist in swimming, so he's going to swim next, or college, sounds like. So that is Scott Slade joining us here on the Boerne Brew. We're talking Boerne champion swimming and diving and water polo. Now, as far as water polo, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit, but when you were hired, somebody told me that you were a water polo guru and that UIL water polo would not be possible in high school without your input. Is that a fair statement?
I have
not the guru part, just the
definitely not a guru.
But as far as getting a UIL established, water polo program,
I do have a little bit of background in the sport. I'm part of the old guard at this point, I guess you could say. Okay. And I had some really good mentors. My high school coach, the high school coach that was at Baytown Sterling before that, these were the true like legends that really put this sport where it needed to go. But I guess I made these two guys mad. In about 2009, we came up with a crazy idea to move water polo, which was non-UIL at the time, to the springtime to increase teams playing, because that's what the UIL is looking for, is number of teams playing. And These guys were furious with us because we got it passed through TISCA. And it happened. And then years later, my old coach was like, okay, you were right. This worked. We went from 65 teams in the state of Texas to over 100, and we kept growing. And right now you're probably at around 200 teams. It worked, and at about right before COVID, I think about 2020, right before all that hit, which really sidetracked us. UIL approached me and said, "You're the guy," because I was the TISCA water polo chair at the time, and I'm the guy they put in that spot when nobody wants to do it, I swear. But they came and said, we're going to do it. We're going to do it in the spring. You're the guy that's going to help us get this off the ground. And we did it.
Well, I know the first year you didn't get Lone Star Cup points because was it considered an exhibition sport at that time?
What did they call it?
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, there's something where it was like an inaugural season. Right. So at what point does it stop being that? Because this is the third year for it.
I think we're good. We're in good standing. Luckily, the UIL athletic director, he loves it. Ray Zepeda actually really likes the sport. He came from Cy-Fair ISD, and he is very much in support of what we're doing. I think we're good. I think we're safe.
Well, I've been to the state tournament the last 3 years because it's been in San Antonio. I've been fortunate to have it here. But it seems like the teams that win it, boys and girls, Dallas, Houston area, is it fair to say that they're ahead of San Antonio area in water polo? I think we're catching them very quickly. What we need in this area is kids starting young, and that's, if you look at the top teams in the state, it's always the same teams, and they're the teams with the most club kids, and it's like any other high school sport, okay? Like you look at South Lake Carroll girls soccer. Why are they good? They have good club soccer teams feeding their program. Football's kind of the exception to the rule, but, every sport, it's club dominated. And I think volleyball, basketball.
And that's what we need here, and that's what we've started here. We've started a club team in Boerne this past August, and we're working on getting younger and having kids play the sport and, close the gap as far, on those kids in Dallas and Houston.
How big is the gap? How big is the discrepancy? Is there any way to measure it?
There's not a measurement necessarily. The measurement is how many kids do you have playing year round? Like, I think that's, the more experience they get. Like, I tell kids all the time, like, you go to these tournaments, I can't coach them in tournaments, but we have people that do, and it's like, you're going to learn, you're going to get more experience in these, and that's what they need. They need more water polo IQ, I guess you could say.
Well, and you came from the Houston area before you took the job in Boerne, and so basically the Houston area is ahead of San Antonio, it seems like. why did you want to leave that area where it's more established and come to an area where it's, where they're trying to play catch up?
I've always been the guy that will go, like, I took the Foster High School job just in 2014. I took the Foster High School job. They didn't have a water polo team, and I just like a challenge. They wanted it.
Okay.
So, and then, by 2019, we'd won our first state championship, and it's fun to build.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a builder.
Yeah, I like to build, but this is my last build. This is it.
It takes a lot of energy, right?
I'm doing a lot of building right now. Building a house, building
programs.
Yeah, building a pool.
That is Scott Slade, Boerne champion, swim and water polo and dive coach, joining us here on the Boerne Brew. So you moved to Boerne a couple years ago. Your daughter was going to be a senior the year before you moved, and you mentioned your daughter Ava. She's playing soccer at Vanderbilt. But you moved the family before her senior year. Was that a tough decision to uproot the family before her senior year?
Yeah, it was. There's a lot of talks between the wife and I. And honestly, there's days we wake up and really miss what we would call home. We lived in Katy, Texas, from basically we moved there in 2011, and we've been there ever since. So it's an adjustment, but that side of Houston is growing so fast. I miss some things, but I don't miss that part.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned she's playing soccer at Vanderbilt. How's that going? I knew they were able to move some water polo matches so you could go watch her on the weekends. How did her season freshman year go?
She had a great first year. I mean, it's SEC soccer. It's very competitive, and they had a big, hefty senior and fifth-year class, so of course, she wanted to play more, but she got a lot of early season play. She got to play in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But, a lot of watching and learning, and that's what happens when you go to a program like that. And they upset Florida State, who was the number one team in the country in the NCAA tournament. And that was pretty exciting stuff to watch.
Now, was it one of the weekends Vanderbilt, the football team, upset somebody? Were you there that weekend?
I was not there that weekend.
Okay, they beat Bama?
I think they beat Alabama.
Yeah, something like that. That was a big win for them.
It's a big year at Vanderbilt.
Yeah. So you mentioned the pool. There's a pool being built. It sounds like there's been some kind of delays. It was supposed to be early this year, but now it looks like it's going to be pushed back a little bit.
Yeah, they're telling us January 1st right now, which we all have eyeballs. I'm going to go ahead and say February 1st.
Okay. So it just got behind, and probably weather, because it's an outdoor facility, right? It's going to be a nice place.
It's going to be a good spot. Just the pool is there. You can walk in there, and, well, I don't recommend people walking in there, but I can walk in there and I can see the pool. Like, it's there. It's just all the structure around it is what we're working on. But it's going to be a great spot to host single water polo games, swim meets. It's going to be a busy place. I feel bad for the people that live right behind it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you mentioned the water polo program that, the youth program that you're trying to build. That's where you guys are going to be. How many kids, because you mentioned you started it in August, how many kids showed up for the very first classes and lessons and all that?
We're at about 100 kids already.
Wow.
And that's a lot of high school. We have a lot of high school kids from the San Antonio area. Kids have figured out, like, hey, we're going to go train over there. So some of them driving up to 45 minutes to get out here. But we are really, really, really focused on what we want to do is grow Boerne. We at the 14U, 12U level. That's our goal right now. So year-round program, things are happening there all the time, and that new pool is going to really be an uptick for us.
Yeah, it'll be nice when it gets completed. What's the website? Because I know you have different websites where people can go and look and sign up and that sort of thing.
Well, this is a whole story in itself. It's hillcountryviperpigeons.com.
Last question for you. We're running out of time here. We want to thank you for being on the show. But what's your projection for growth in water polo high school level over the next few years?
I think you're going to see a lot more participation from kids. Like, we're already seeing it at the club level. A lot more kids are participating. As far as teams go, there's some districts we definitely want to hit. And I think you'll see a handful of teams per year, throughout the next 10 years.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for being part of the show and talking about, water polo is so new and UIL level, and, people see it every 4 years, the Olympics for the most part, and then, it kind of goes away. But I think this, having it in your community and having it as a UIL sport will elevate it, for the people to see, and maybe kids will get involved, and hopefully it grows, right?
It's definitely growing. It's just time, and making people aware of it.
Well, Coach Lay, thank you for joining us here on the Boerne Brew, and we'll see you at the swim meet.
All right, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and thank you out there for listening to the Boerne Brew. We'll talk to you next time.